Southend United FC, a club with 117 years of rich history and one of the largest and most dedicated supporter bases in the National League, is on the brink of extinction. The story starts back 24 years ago in 1998 when property developer Ron Martin bought the club and its home stadium Roots Hall for £4 million. Martin's plan was to move Southend away from Roots Hall into a site here on an area called Fossett's Farm, where they would build a training ground which they've already completed, a new stadium which they'll start, obviously, if the club does not get liquidated, and also nearly 1,500 new homes. And on the site where Roots Hall would be, once that's all demolished, then they would build 500 new homes there as well. So you can see how Ron Martin is taking his property development business and putting that into Southend as well. However, if the club are to go under, why would he be doing all this? Well, we just don't know, and the outcome of the situation is still very unclear.
Ron Martin came into the club in, I think it was 1998, I think was his sort of initial sort of step into it.
Basically, the plan always was to redevelop, to move Roots Hall, to develop Roots Hall, and then to develop the ground around the area, around the new ground.
His only ambition from the moment he got in was to sell off the land that Roots Hall currently stands on. To do that, by the way, he had to devalue Roots Hall and sell it to himself. It was initially owned by the fans, by the club, but he deemed it necessary to sell it to himself. Sell that land, move Southend United to a development on Fossett's Farm, which is just up on the border of Rochford and Southend. Essentially build a new stadium for the club, but as a sort of side project to building housing development for his own profits and making a hell of a lot of money.
But Martin's mismanagement of the club over the years has led to several financial problems. Southend faced its first winding up order from HMRC for unpaid tax bills in 2009, and just a year later, the Professional Footballers Association had to provide wages for staff and players after the club failed to pay them. 10 years later, in 2020, both of these things reoccurred, and this time round the club faced fines and a point deduction from the EFL. But they were saved both of these times. Southend lived to tell the tale. However, this time round, the Blues may not be so lucky. In September last year, the club missed yet another payment to HMRC and now owe them a staggering £1.4 million, and a final date has been set. The club have to pay this seven-figure amount by March the 1st in 2 weeks' time, otherwise they'll be liquidated.
On the 1st of March, we got a call, and the judge said that's final. Now that's 16 days' time, and I think every Southend United supporter you're going to speak to, we honestly don't know. We honestly don't know what's going to happen. Me, I'd like to think he's going to come out with a big cheque in a few weeks' time and go, hey, look, we've done it. I'm the hero, which he never will be a hero, Southend fans. But we honestly don't know, which is a scary thing.
Barely an hour goes by that, some of us aren't, well, all of us aren't doing something to, emailing this person, talking to this person, looking up this on the internet, forever having discussions and getting arrangements going as to what we're going to do next. It does sort of take over your life to an extent. Yeah, the last probably, well, it's especially the last 2 or 3 months. It's just you've just not you'd go to the game and you wouldn't be concentrating on the football at all. I can barely remember any of the actual football in action for the last few games I've been to.
On top of this, some members of staff and players still haven't been paid for months. It's not just employees and taxes that the club are having issues with either. Last week, St John's Ambulance announced that they would no longer be providing medical care at upcoming Southend games, and the club couldn't even produce a programme for last week's tie against York City.
We had no programme for the game against York. Now, it may not seem a big thing, a programme, a football programme, but then that was kind of the final nail, that we couldn't even produce a programme because we couldn't produce the content of the programme. And it's starting to, little things like that really do, bring it home. Really does.
I contacted Ron Martin for a comment, but received no response. Of course, if the club were to get liquidated, it would be a humongous loss for the community. Around 6,000 people attend every single home league game at Roots Hall.
I went to Oldham the other week on the coach with my daughter. We only made it to Cambridge because unfortunately the game was called off. Now on that coach there were many older single people. Southend United is their life.
I mean, the people that go to Southend, you know, I've ended up growing up with them. You know, they've been my mates for years now. And you've got people that, you know, whatever people go through in life, you know, lose their family, go through, you know, breakups, different life events, get married. Some people, Southend fans that I know, have been to war and come back, and you know, lost mates. And the one thing that remains has always been Southend United. You know, that's been the way, that's been the place that they can always go and come back to, and sort of know that they're always going to be welcome, and always going to see a friendly face. And that's the real tragedy of it. I think it's the sense, as you say, of a loss of not just an asset in a community, but a loss of a community itself.
It's not just for football. I think we realised that during COVID. It's for a cup of tea at the cafe before. It's for a walk to the ground. It's for a pint in the far post bar. It's for camaraderie of going to away games. It's the old boy sitting in front of you. It's your season ticket. It's your. There'll be people who sit in that ground who are best friends with people that sit in front of them, behind them, next to them, and they've probably never been to their house.
Local MP Anna Firth raised the issue in Parliament and also called for a debate on the future of non-league football, but so far nothing has come of it. Today the Shrimpers are taking on Gateshead at home in the National League in what will be their last ever home game before this court hearing on March the 1st. Before the game, both sets of fans are coming together to protest against Ron Martin, which is one last desperate call for change. However, today may be the last time these supporters are able to watch their team here at home at Roots Hall. As you can see, the protest has now started. Lots of fans gathering here in Southend city centre. They're now going to march down towards the ground. We're walking down the road now. I'm not sure if you can hear me. Very loud here. Lots of fans turned up, showing their anger towards Ron Martin. Lots of fans turned up here, probably a couple hundred, with thousands in the ground, all of them showing their anger towards Martin. And it's really sad to see what they've done to this club and what they've done to this community. Well, as you can see, we're walking in the road now. Obviously, this protest causing a lot of disruption, but hopefully this will attract, you know, media to report on it. The coverage of this so far has not been great, but you know, the disruption this is causing, fingers crossed it brings some attention to it and change is happening.
Southend till I die! Southend till I die! Southend till I die! Southend till I die!
After the protest, we headed in to watch the game. With just 5 minutes on the clock, 17-year-old Henry Sandat tapped home for his first ever Shrimpers goal to put them ahead. And towards the end of the first half, Aaron Martin was sent off for the visitors after a high boot. The game ended 1-0 to Southend. Well, that marks the end of my day in Southend, and of course it was another fantastic performance and another great victory, this time 1-0 against Gateshead as Southend push up the National League now into these playoff places. However, today's video is not about the football on the pitch, it's about the issues off of it, and what they're going through right now is absolutely terrible, and no club should have to go through this. Obviously, teams like Bury AFC, or they're now called AFC, but what used to be Bury FC, Wimbledon FC as well. The media said that they'd never let it happen again, but here, the Shrimpers, in a few weeks' time, they could not exist anymore, and it's absolutely wrong. And no club should ever have to go through this. But one thing that I can guarantee is that whatever happens on this 1st of March deadline, whether Ron comes out with a cheque and he manages to pay this debt off, or whether the club do die, unfortunately, and the fans have to work their way up from the very bottom once again as a Phoenix club. Whatever happens, they will come out of this stronger and better than ever because of a couple of things. They've got such a great setup here at Rootsall. They've got a fantastic group of fans, especially the ones in the West Stand beside me today, making all the noise from minute 1 to minute 90, over 6,500 in the stadium today, and also just the sort of community sense that is here at Southend. There's not many Premier League teams or anything like that around here. Everyone in this town, everyone in this city is here for one football team, and that is Southend United. So whatever happens on the 1st of March, I'm sure they'll continue to support this team, whether it's a Phoenix club or still United. Thank you to David and Tom for agreeing to speak to me and helping me understand the story and what's going on here at Rootsall a little bit better, and hopefully they have helped you as well understand this, and this video has raised awareness about the current situation. And the point I want to end this video on is this is a terrible thing. It shouldn't happen to any football club ever again, and hopefully Southend can survive.